When the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan. And we were successful. The Soviets left Afghanistan, and then we said, great, goodbye, leaving these trained people who were fanatical in Afghanistan and Pakistan, leaving them well armed.
We know of their deep belief in God, and we are confident that their struggle will succeed. That land over there is yours. You'll go back to it one day, because your fight will prevail, and you'll have your homes and your mosques back again, because your cause is right, and God is on your side.
Go recruit these mujahideen, and let's get some to come from Saudi Arabia and other places, importing their Wahhabi brand of Islam.
This extremism came from your schools and from your mosques.
And in part, I blame ourselves also in hindsight, because are there things that we could have done? Probably. But at the time that this was all, all these forces were being unleashed, you deal with them at the time.
If you take a look at Afghanistan.
The United States of America is a friend to the Afghan people.
And end the war in Afghanistan.
Get out of Afghanistan.
My name's Joe Biden.
Make this commitment. The conflict will not be the end. We will not walk away.
Thanks to our military and our allies and the brave fighters of Afghanistan, the Taliban regime is coming to an end.
We've destroyed an enormous amount of the military infrastructure of the Taliban.
The days of the Taliban are over.
Yes, the Taliban have got time, but their game of waiting is a game that will not succeed.
These Afghans searched for dead bodies after a US airstrike hit a wedding party. 35 civilians were killed and 38 injured. The bride is among the injured in Kandahar Hospital, along with other women and children.
There was no question of us withdrawing our British troops.
And as Commander-in-Chief, I have determined that it is in our vital national interest to send an additional 30,000 US troops to Afghanistan.
A US operation in western Afghanistan killed some 90 civilians. The US at first denied that any civilians had been killed.
I have two words for you: Predator drones. You will never see it coming. This war has taken longer than most anticipated. But over the last 3 years, the tide has turned. We broke the Taliban's momentum.
I think this country is a vast improvement on what we found in 2001, and I think our troops can leave with their heads held high over a job very well done.
Nigeria and Afghanistan, possibly the two most corrupt countries.
We will be deploying an additional 440 personnel to NATO's Resolute Support mission in Afghanistan.
There's anger and confusion on this pine nut farm. The drone strike came when workers were resting after a day's work.
Don't the Americans see that they were just working and gathering pine nuts? Why do they attack ordinary workers?
The Taliban wants to make a deal.
In a way, I now know why we're in Afghanistan.
Why is that?
A month ago, they announced it's got the biggest lithium deposit in the world.
Or battery.
Sure. Every cell phone, every computer, everything runs off of lithium. Cars are going to run off it. And we're still buying that we're there to fight terrorism and the Taliban. Give me a break, it's a red herring. The whole war on terror is just a red herring to get what they want to do. It's the lithium. What do you think we're there? Iraq's the oil.
We're not a new kid on the block when it comes to Afghanistan. Our first work in Afghanistan started in 1952, and we were there until about 1973. One of the things that we discovered when we started work is that there was a huge amount of mineral data available within the Ministry of Mines and Industries at that time and within the Afghan Geological Survey. This was mostly old Soviet data that went back to... We used the old Soviet data to compile the first assessment of what we call the preliminary assessment of the mineral resources of the country. That was completed in 2010. We were approached by the Department of Defense and they asked us whether or not, or how could they basically increase interest in the development of these mineral resources in these boxes. And we told them we normally do not go beyond what you see, but if you want to increase the interest, then you need to go into each one of the boxes and develop detailed information and data. We did that. This block map basically includes metallic minerals, industrial minerals, and locations for gemstones or precious stones. So it's a full look at the mineral resource assessment as we look at them in USGS. That confirmed basically that we were right in our assessment because we found what we should have found there. There's a figure floating out there that it's actually 3 trillion, and I've heard a figure of 30 trillion. Our primary focus beyond oil and gas.
Afghanistan, it hasn't gotten, I mean, the president obviously gave his big speech recently about sending more troops there. You delivered a plan this summer to the president to get the Afghanistan economy back on its feet that relies in part on tapping into the country's estimated $1 trillion in mineral resources, trillion even by Washington standards, as you said, a lot of money. The president has said we can use some of those resources to repay us for what we've spent there. Where does the plan stand, and are we going to be able to benefit from that?
A few years ago, the U.S. Geological Survey did a survey of Afghanistan. It concluded that there was about $1 trillion of natural resources, not counting oil and gas, so copper, lithium, minerals of those sort. That's a big number. And then ultimately getting some big international mining firms to come in and do the job.
Yeah.
Is blessed with the presence of what are trillions, with an S on the end, trillions of dollars worth of minerals, if and only if you can get the extractive technology, the human capital operated, the lines of communication to enable you to get it out of the country and all the rest of that. Very big if, and of course there's a foundation of security that would be necessary on which to build all of that. But again, the prospects are very significant if you can achieve objectives.
It looked like nothing was happening. Indeed, it looked like we were in a, altogether now, quagmire.
Sir, I was going to say stalemate.
Stalemate, yes.
We're not winning in Afghanistan?
Sir, I understand the urgency. I understand it's my responsibility. We're not winning in Afghanistan.
Now he's president. He's saying, well, they've got like $1 trillion of minerals in Afghanistan. Why don't we at least take it to pay for the war? No, that would be stealing. That would be robbing from them. Trump thinks, well, I don't like the option of leaving anymore. I don't like the option of putting in more troops. Mm-hmm. And he's, in other words, biding his time to introduce the option of, why don't we just give it to my friend Eric Prince and let him make billions of dollars off of it? That way the millions he gave us will be repaid by billions from taxpayers.
We're 6,000 miles away, where Taliban is here, ISIS is here, and they're fighting each other. I said, why don't you let them fight? Why are we getting in the middle of it? I said, let them fight. They're both our enemies. Let them fight. They go in and they end up fighting both of them. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
There's no doubt that since the US invaded in October 2001, the war has been partly privatised, and the effect of that on civilian lives has been devastating. However, what Eric Prince is trying to do here is even worse. What he's trying to do is two things. One, privatise the war. He claims that thousands of private mercenaries can essentially do what the US military has not been able to do in 17 years of war. Prince has plans to try to exploit the country's resources. He has the Trump administration behind. He wants to try to exploit lithium and gold and rare earths in a diluted plan to be able to somehow profit, obviously, for his own company. It would worsen violence, not make it any better.
As the world electrifies, and whether it's moving towards green energy, whether it's solar or wind, what does that require? An enormous amount of copper. When you have every megawatt of wind power installed requires 7 tons of copper.
I've got a lot of other things. I spend most of my time mining and looking for natural resources in weird places of the world. This would be a passion project. The private sector can do this. The business of America is business. It's not warfare. We've been looking for minerals, and there is an enormous mineral and energy potential in Afghanistan if you could just set security long enough. Okay, so if you have a reliable battalion in the area that can pacify an area, then you can attract the private capital to build. If you build a mine, right? There's a place like Mas Ainak. It's 50 kilometers south of Kabul. It's the largest copper deposit in the world. More than 6 million tons of copper. Do it manually. I employ 10,000 Afghans with picks and shovels and pay them $12 a day. The Taliban's paying 10, we pay 12. I take great umbrage when people say, Eric Prince wants to privatize this and make money. Yeah, I'm going to make money. I would try to make money.
Working on a fund, a bigger investment fund to do some of the strategic minerals that you need to make electric vehicles, right? There's a big shift coming in electric vehicles. Electric vehicles I've laid out this plan, this alternative, that comes in at less than 8% of what the Pentagon is spending.
The New York Times described it very, very well, calling Afghanistan the lithium country, the Saudi Arabia of lithium. So where Saudi Arabia is the oil capital of the world, Afghanistan will be the lithium capital of the world.
Basically, extract the lithium from the ore.
Lithium in Afghanistan. So certainly the lithium deposits are not that common. These are salts that rapidly erode into the ocean. So finding them on land is difficult. With the rise in the electronics industry, the need for lithium is only going to increase. And so you can imagine these are worth quite a bit of money.
The relationship between baby powder and global world power. Can you expand on that sort of dilemma a little bit?
Talcum powder is the softest powder known to mankind, right? And it's found, like lapis and like gold, almost exclusively in Afghanistan. And ISIS-K, which is sort of the Central Asian variant of ISIS-Daesh. So ISIS-K have been very effective in trying to work out what assets produce cash. And one of the things they've targeted are the talcum mines in Afghanistan. And that brings them estimates around about, Global Witness did the work on this, somewhere between $20 and $30 million a year minimum. And that's quite a lot of cash. That powder has come from probably ISIS-controlled territories, shipped out through Pakistan through legal or illegal.
He has assessed that the Afghan government will likely collapse.
That is not true.
The Taliban declared the war in Afghanistan was over on Monday, after they took control of the presidential palace in the capital, Kabul.
Seeing the sacrifices we've made as British soldiers, for it just to go up in smoke in a couple of weeks, you've just got to question, was it worth it? And for me, at the moment, for many of my friends messaging me, I don't think it was.
We were told we were fighting terrorists. The real terrorist was me, and the real terrorism is this occupation. Poor and working people in this country are sent to kill poor and working people in another country to make the rich richer.